Hey there, welcome back to Tennille Talks. So y'all, thank you for taking space with me on Saturday. You know, when I laid the cards down to do Saturday's reading, there was no conversation happening between Spirit and I. Normally I lay the cards down and then I get the inspiration. I kind of am given how I should take the story, like which direction to take it in. And when I laid them, nothing happened. And so by obedience, I thought I was just being told not to post. And so obviously I got online. I wrote you all the message that I wouldn't post. And then immediately after posting that message to you, I go back to the cards and then the story starts to unfold. And so this message needed to come on Sunday. But at the same time, something happened on Saturday in my physical environment that I did not know would take place. So y'all, yeah, obedience is important. And as things unfold, I'll be able to share more with you. But yeah, I'm really understanding how this conversation works between Spirit. And February 2nd, since February 2nd, I believe I've posted a video every single day. And like, I really am consistent, or I pride myself in being consistent. Like, I don't like to break a trend or a streak. I just like us to be together every day. I really enjoy it. It heals me and it brings me comfort. But it also it allows us to heal alongside one another, you know? And so I don't want to cause a hiccup in your chain, so to speak. But again, I could not predict what happened in my home today. So I understand why I should not have posted. So here it is. This is our Sunday message. So to begin this message, I'm talking to a healer. When I call you a healer, I am saying that you have a belief in interconnectedness, meaning that your mind, your body, and your spirit, they are all one. When one system goes down, it is an indication that there is some type of error that exists in another one of your functions. And so as a healer, you value interconnectedness because your job is to make all things whole. Any aspect or any broken piece means that the system itself is broken. You have the ability to alleviate stress, anguish, and you also can mend repairs. Now for this reading, I use my handmade deck, which has biblical characters. It has orishas, it has proverbs. So I only pull 4 cards from this deck. This deck has over 180 cards. 3 of the 4 cards are biblical characters and 1 card is an orisha. So the first biblical character that comes out is Zacchaeus. Now, I'm going to read what my card says. It says, this dishonest tax collector met Jesus while in a sycamore tree and immediately accepted him as Savior. So let's talk about Zacchaeus a little bit. He was untrustworthy. He was fraudulent, corrupt. He was a swindler. And he lacked truth or honesty, but he was rich. Now, upon reading more about Zacchaeus, he very well could have been the most hated man in Jericho. He was a chief tax collector, and it said that he was most likely pagan or Greek. He was not Jewish. And there were 3 main reasons why people could not stand Zacchaeus. 1, he took your damn money. 2, he took it for the Roman Empire. And at the time, the Roman Empire were considered to be oppressive thugs or just a gang of thugs. This is how the Israelites would have perceived them, right? And so tax collectors were always collecting more than was owed, and then they would pocket the rest for their own gain. And so Zacchaeus has gotten rich off of his dishonesty, but he is like, he's the middleman for the thugs. So the Jews couldn't stand him. All right, let's talk about him a little more. To the Israelites, Zacchaeus was a repulsive little man. I think it is so important to be mindful of his stature. This is somebody that was short, and that comes out in a little bit. I'll talk about his stature. So he was a little man, and he was, he didn't fit the profile of like a faithful person. But when Jesus came to town, he was so excited to see Jesus. So Jesus comes. Zacchaeus is excited to see Jesus, but he's dishonest. Like none of his qualities, his traits, or his characteristics really fit somebody that would be excited to see the Savior. But y'all remember, he's little and there are crowds. And so the way that Zacchaeus gets to see Jesus is he climbs a sycamore tree. Let's just talk about the supernatural or the spiritual meaning of a sycamore tree. That tree itself symbolizes the power of seeking spiritual enlightenment and the potential for personal transformation. And so he's little, so he has to climb, but the very tree that he climbs almost reveals the very thing that he was about to do in his own life. He was about to spiritually be enlightened. He was about to personally be transformed. And just by climbing the tree, it was a physical manifestation of like a mental, an emotional, and a spiritual choice that he had already made inside of himself. Okay. Now, I'm just going to say something else about Zacchaeus. So Zacchaeus climbs the tree to see Jesus. He is the most hated person. Don't nobody like Zacchaeus because he's a thief and he's wealthy. When he's in the tree, Jesus is like, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house tonight for dinner. And obviously flattered, Zacchaeus is like, ready to welcome Jesus. Well, not only does Jesus choose his home to go to for dinner, but he also declares that Zacchaeus is saved. And he also says that he is now a son of Abraham. So he's pagan, he's a thief, but like he got picked. Like, how does somebody else like that get picked? Right. And so everybody else in the crowd is like, oh my God, like of all the people to hang out with, of all the people to go eat dinner with, like you choose Zacchaeus. Like that was just like the general consensus of the crowd. But I think the message was like anybody can be saved. Anybody can be one thing and then choose to be the next. And so when Zacchaeus has this moment of exchange with Jesus, he's essentially like, listen, everything that I've taken from the poor, I am going to return 4 times over. So like that is his story. Now, the only part of Zacchaeus that I think is really important for this reading is his characteristics. We are not going to talk about somebody that climbed a sycamore tree because they were ready to get saved. They were ready to spiritually evolve or personally transform. And so we are talking about the version of this repulsive little man that existed before Jesus came to Jericho. Now, Zacchaeus enters the life of a healer, and I'm talking to the healer. He enters the life of a healer. And I have a card that says voodoo. And on the card, we're holding, the figure on the card is holding a voodoo doll. And so this means that just like Zacchaeus would enter the lives of Jews in order to collect money, Zacchaeus enters the life of a healer in order to collect something. One of the ways that he is going to collect from the healer is by using some type of magic. This reading says voodoo was used. Now, the type of magic that Zacchaeus is looking to do is called diluted attachments, which means Zacchaeus needs this healer to have an unshakable belief in something that is untrue. But the untrue thing needs to be about how this healer identifies with themselves. And so here we go again with our black cat. We talked about a black cat. Somebody made the connection to, y'all, I'm so sorry, Basset. Right? That's that. Somebody made that connection before. So black cats, grace, mystery, psychic abilities. Something about your psychic abilities Zacchaeus needed to perform voodoo on in order to get you to believe without a shadow of a doubt that you weren't who you really were. You're a healer, but Zacchaeus needs to enter your life so you don't recognize or believe or have faith and trust in the fact that you're a healer. And so this means that whatever magic is done to you is going to cause you mental conflict and defeat. Zacchaeus wants to conquer, subdue, and overthrow your mind by causing an internal disagreement. He wants you to argue with yourself. Oftentimes we see like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. That is what is supposed to be happening in your mind. But you are supposed to be arguing so much so that you don't take a step forward in your healing mission. So let me tell you, I'm going to tell you why you are such a threat as this healer in this reading. So you have a knowledge, right? Your knowledge represents your awareness, your consciousness. It's just this understanding that you have. You comprehend. What is it that you comprehend that is a threat? You understand earth. Earth is about stability, grounding, connecting to the natural world. You know, oftentimes we call Earth a living library. And so healers are almost the librarians. You have made such a connection, and you've grown into like this relationship that is harmonious with the earth, that you understand how to manifest. You understand how to create. Like, you know shit that the common person doesn't know. And so somebody wants to essentially turn your mind in on itself, so that you can no longer operate as this healer. But your mind is supposed to believe that you are not who you really are. And so they hire Zacchaeus to come in and to cause diluted attachments. Now, the knowledge that you have, it comes with certain commitments. It comes with certain contracts. We're talking about you carrying a certain type of duty or devotion or some unwavering dedication to knowing what you know. Like, you are committed to your consciousness. You are committed to expanding, understanding, comprehending, and learning more. Like, it is an entire job. And for some, it could be a full-time job. But like, every fiber of your being understands what you are here to do on earth. And so, you know, that needs to be broken. You have a whole mind, and you essentially need to have a broken mind. So now here comes Papa Legba. So when Zacchaeus enters your life, they're really coming because they want to tap into the energy of Papa Legba. Now, Papa Legba is the gatekeeper between human and spirit realms. He is the old man at the gate. He is the facilitator. He's seen as the first and the last spirit that is going to be invoked in any ritual, okay? And so Papa Legba is the opening and the closing. And the duty or the role of Papa Legba is to assist humans in communicating with the Iwa. Iwa is just spirits, okay? And so this Orisha controls access to the spiritual world. He decides who can communicate with the Iwa. And also Papa Legba is said to understand and speak all human languages. And so Zacchaeus wants to essentially close the door. Whatever knowledge you have, there's some type of spiritual connection that you have had to have access to that allowed your gateways to be open so that you can tap into the spiritual realm. You are a human, but your ability to communicate spiritual things, the things that you know, are powerful. And so if Papa Legba has opened the door, Zacchaeus comes in to cause diluted attachments, so that when you go to the door to commune with Papa Legba, he shuts it because you don't even know who you are. You're just moving different. Okay? Now, your knowledge has been given access to you. Like, somebody spiritually had to trust you as a healer, right? Like, the spiritual realm believes in you. They back you. They support you, which is why they give you this knowledge, this insight, this access to consciousness. And on the other side of this knowledge, you have the knowledge, and Papa Legba is essentially giving you access to the light, which means light itself is just a state of increased awareness. It is an understanding. It is your ability to be illuminated, right? Light itself is just a conscious entity. And so you having access to light means that you are going to exist in an enhanced consciousness or knowledge that the common man doesn't have. And that is a threat. Now, this is where it goes wrong for Zacchaeus in the reading. If you can go to war with yourself, if your mind can be so convinced that you are not who you really are, it is going to be because Zacchaeus successfully planted a seed inside of you called fear of failure. This means whatever Zacchaeus is able to do to your mind by way of using voodoo, the fear is going to be powerful enough to tame your passions and starve your dreams. Your commitment to knowledge, your duty, the devotion that you have to consciousness, somebody needs you to be so afraid of the light, so fearful of taking the next step, that your dreams are never fulfilled. You never go any further. Fear has the ability to impede our progress and to hinder our ability to achieve. We can't achieve our goals. We can't achieve our aspirations. And it's because we have been condemned to like this perpetual state of emptiness and frustration. And if we're talking about the biggest failure, it is really to never try. And so the diluted attachments that were supposed to cause this healer conflict and mental defeat, it was supposed to make you so afraid that you wouldn't take a step towards the light. You would just forever exist in doubt, in fear, in a lack of self, to the point that your dreams just don't evolve. They don't come true because you don't take the next step. That's why Zacchaeus comes in, to get you not to take the next step towards committing yourself to this type of knowledge. But the problem, wait, let me tell you some more about Papa Legba. So if you have an altar for Papa Legba, one of the best places to place your altar would be behind a door. Some of the favorite foods associated with Papa Legba are corn, candy, rum, palm oil, or coffee. Saints of Catholicism that are connected to Papa Legba could be Saint Michael, Saint Peter, Saint Martin, and Saint Lazarus. If there is a planet that is connected or assigned to Papa Legba, it is Mercury. So this is about your mind. Healers are a fucking problem because of their mind, the power of their mind. And so a lot of times when people come for you, they are coming to shut down your mind, to close the door, to close the roads, to impact access. If you show up to Papa Legba, or if Papa Legba doesn't allow you in, it's because you've forgotten who you are. And sometimes that is the attack. It is for you to forget who you are by going to war with yourself. There is no amount of voodoo based on this reading that got you to put down the dream. They couldn't close your third eye. They couldn't stop you from keeping the vision. They couldn't stop you from achieving your goals or trusting the process. You have the ability to see into the future. Your dreams are prophetic, and your mind is always existing in a state of clarity. All right. So in the center of the reading, it tells us what they wanted. They wanted you to be so fearful that you didn't step into the light. But whatever they did, it just wasn't powerful enough to usurp the supernatural settings of your mind. Like they just couldn't override your mind. If they had been successful, they wanted to close your roads. They wanted to end your reign on earth. So whatever your mind, essentially, if you are this library, right? If you are this librarian of the living library, they wanted to fire you. They didn't want you to hold that job. They didn't want you to hold that position. Your relationship with the earth allows you to make a wish. When you make a wish, you then manifest it into reality. That means that you can have a thought, and with a matter of time, whatever is in your mind can literally be seen in the physical world. It can become tangible. Y'all, that is some powerful shit. That is some powerful shit. Now, here comes the second biblical character. We got Abel. And so we talked about Abel not too long ago, but Abel was Adam and Eve's second son. He was killed by his older brother Cain. And if we remember, it was time for Cain and Abel to offer sacrifices to God. Well, Abel, being a shepherd, offers the firstborn of his flock. Cain, his big brother, as like a farmer, offers some berries. Can you imagine somebody making you a fruit salad or a fruit bowl, and they don't take the damn grapes off the vine? They don't clean the strawberries. They don't cut the stem off the strawberries. They don't pick the thorns. Like, can you imagine giving God a fruit bowl, but like you didn't clean the fruit? Like you didn't prepare it in any way. You just give him a bowl of fruit and be like, that's all I got. But then you have Abel, who gives him the firstborn of his flock. And so the difference in what was provided or offered to God for a sacrifice, like obviously God read those sacrifices in very different ways. And so the big brother that offers God a dirty fruit bowl gets mad at the level of favor that God shows Abel, the little brother, for giving him the firstborn of the flock. Gets so mad and jealous that he kills him. And so you are being described as Abel in this reading. meaning that you can make a wish, you can manifest your dreams into reality. And so you understand that if I am going to commune with spirit, if I'm going to have this relationship, if we're going to dialogue and talk, and if we're going to manifest, if I want to create anything, then like I have to offer something. And what I offer, it needs to represent, like y'all remember, what is it, Man on Fire? And they were like a life for a life, right? And so if you're able, if you want more life, if you want quality of life, if you want a life of favor, you can't offer no dirty fruit that you haven't prepared. Like your offering needs to match the very thing that you are looking for. And so you are being described as Abel. Now, the way people treat you can be similar to how Cain responds to Abel. People are probably often jealous of you just because of the relationship, but it's about your integrity and it's about your connection to the Most High. So the reading goes on a little further. Whatever you offer has the ability to bring fertility, abundance, and it's really about your relationship to earth. If you want stability, if you want to be connected to the natural world, right? If you want more life, if you want to be in harmony with the environment, then your offerings, when I'm talking about your offerings, I'm not saying that you got to go like kill a sheep or a goat, right? And people do that. I'm not saying out of judgment. I'm not saying anything about those that do that. But what I am saying is the way you offer your mind, the way you offer your emotions, your actions, like the way you show up to life in general is an offering. The way you use your life as a way to sacrifice something to the Most High is a form of offering. And so this would be like the Most High being your first thought as Abel, as opposed to like the Most High being your last thought if you were Cain. And so because you have this favor, it is because God is always your first thought. And so you have favor, and people have a tendency to recognize this energy existing on you. And so jealousy and envy is not anything that is foreign to you. It is probably something that you are very comfortable with because it is what you have endured and dealt with for most of your life. A lot of people want to bring an ending to you because they don't like that you can just manifest a dream into reality. Oftentimes when we say something is a dream, it sounds so fucking far away, right? But if you are somebody like Abel, your dreams can become a reality very easily. So when Zacchaeus enters your life, not only does he want to close your door, not only does he want to bring endings into your life, but they want to turn your universe, right? Like your mind, your connection to the entity that we call light. Like they want to turn that. I have a card here that says venomous garden. This card talks about the struggle to see beyond the surface of appearances, right? Sometimes we can be so captivated by aspects of something that we remain blind to its hidden dangers. And so this is about essentially turning out your light so you can't see the things that you need to see. And so here you are trying to manifest, here you are trying to make a wish, but you're doing it in a venomous garden. You can't tell who's who, you don't know who's bad. It's like you're no longer tapped in because they closed your road. You're no longer in harmony with earth. You are standing in a garden that looks luscious and looks beautiful, but everything around you can fucking kill you. This was the point of that. And so instead of you manifesting with light, they essentially want to send you to a place where the appearance of everything is very deceptive, but you can't decipher between the two, between the good and the bad. Now, all of this was unsuccessful, but this was the plan. And so this is how the reading ends. It ends with boundaries. And so you know how we talked about Zacchaeus climbing a sycamore tree in order to personally evolve or spiritually elevate. Well, in this reading, it talks about somebody being jealous and envious because there is a boundary. And so for a period of time, anybody that comes to you, they are essentially coming to the sycamore tree. You are the very thing that is going to elevate. You are the very thing that spiritually is going to bring people enlightenment and personal transformation. And so not only do they, y'all, and I got my favorite card, God help anybody who disrespects the queen. You know, when we're talking about a king or a queen, oftentimes they have something that they wear that separates them from the rest. It is their crown. When I'm talking about your knowledge and your light, that is your crown chakra. And so somebody doesn't really recognize that your crown, your knowledge is royal. And so you enter the life of a royal in order to usurp their crown, in order to distort their energy so that they can't talk, they can't communicate, they can't use the light. They no longer have consciousness awareness. Like you did that to a royal. Another thing I thought was important about mentioning that Zacchaeus was short. I really feel like this is somebody that was short-minded. Like their mind wasn't even long enough to consider how royal you may have been in order to have this type of knowledge. I also thought that it was important to note that like Zacchaeus was most likely sent into your life, right? He climbs the sycamore tree. You would have been the very thing that he needed to climb to personally evolve. But if you were coming up as Abel, this is almost like saying that somebody else who was already jealous or envious of you would have sent him into your life in order to close your roads. You could have like a brother. You could have a Cain, right? A Cain doesn't have to be a brother or a sibling. It could be anybody who would look at you in the same way that Cain looked at Abel. And so they employ Zacchaeus to come in and to get some money off the top. Not only do you close their roads, not only do you put their mind in a state of diluted attachments, but will pay you for it. And so this is somebody that only thinks about the money. Zacchaeus was rich, which means that, listen, when they come to you doing this voodoo shit, like they're good at this, like they've done this before, but they just didn't consider the fact that your crown was royal. Right? And so now we have jealous and envy, and they're mad because when they try to climb the sycamore tree, when they try to get to you, there's a gate around the tree. He can't climb it. He can't access you because you've put up boundaries. And the reason why you have boundaries is because of the work that you have already done in your shadow. When I'm talking about your shadow, I'm talking about your subconscious mind. And so you being able to find harmony in the discord, like any diluted attachment that ever happened by way of the voodoo that Zacchaeus was able to successfully do, it wasn't enough to subdue you. It couldn't really control you because you have a royal crown, right? And so darkness isn't really darkness for you. It is just another state of existing. It's not good or bad. It just is. And so if your crown is royal, you can navigate the dark. You can navigate the light. Now, the third biblical character that comes up is Moses. And so now this is saying that somebody is jealous and envy because there is a boundary. They can't get to the sycamore tree that essentially would be you. Moses is coming up as describing who you are as this queen. God help anybody who disrespects the queen. In order to better understand queen, I have a card about Moses. It says Israel's great deliverer and lawgiver who led his people from Egypt to the border of the promised land, right? So now they can't access you. Remember how happy Zacchaeus was in the Bible to see Jesus? Right? Now it's like they want to see you, but they're mad that they can't be delivered. And so the very thing that they did to you, not only were they unsuccessful, not only were you able to get out of whatever the voodoo was that they tried to bind your mind in, but now they need to be delivered. And so you tried to take the crown off of a royal, and the very royal that you tried to take the crown off is the royal that you need to be delivered. That is exactly where you needed to go in order to enter the promised land. Biblically, Zacchaeus was able to be a grimy ass tax collector, but somehow Jesus still saved him. Jesus still gave him a way into the kingdom. So, this was a whole pagan, but essentially Jesus said, hey, even you can be a son of Abraham. Right? And so now this is somebody who needs to be delivered. Somebody wants to get in the kingdom, but now the sycamore tree has a boundary up, which means you're not talking to this person. You cut this person off. They don't have any access to you because when they first entered, they disrespected you. And there's no way you can do this to a royal and then think that you can return. It's like you'll have to find another way into the kingdom. But our story has ended. Our time is done now. Y'all, so that is pretty much the reading. It's about your ability to consistently, through trials and tribulation, find your true self. And so when people come and they try to create a trial or an obstacle or some type of struggle, it only leads you to your true self. Your darkness, that's where all your dreams, your treats, and your gifts are. And so putting you in a state of delusion, making you believe something that you're not, means that at some point you are going to purge every false belief or false idea, and you will really discover who you truly are. And you're a damn royal. and you were disrespected. And so now somebody is in the energy of being jealous and envious, right? And it's not necessarily because they didn't take your crown. It's like, damn, and you had a crown. So not only did I do voodoo on you, not only did I try to close access so that you couldn't connect with the spiritual world, I didn't want you to be able to manifest. I didn't want you to make wishes and have them come into reality. But you got a nerve to be a royal at the same time. And so if they had come to you correctly, if they had come to you appropriately, they could have been delivered. They could have been to the promised land, but now this is somebody that don't have access because now they can't get in. There's no sycamore tree to touch. There's no sycamore tree to climb because there's now a barrier. You've established a boundary. And so sometimes this is the very way that people have to learn. Sometimes people think that their minds are bigger than they really are. And so the same diluted attachments that were supposed to be stuck on your mind, this means that somebody was really under their own spell. Somebody thought that they were taller. Zacchaeus was a short-ass little man. Somebody thought that they were tall, and after fucking with you, they realize how short they are. Right? But they want to get back in. Now they're personally ready to transform. Now they want to spiritually evolve, but what's done is done. Right? And so now you got to balance. Now we got to balance these scales. Now we got to pay the consequences, so to speak, not because of punishment, because what you did was so out of balance that the energies need to be restored. And whatever life looks like for you in the process of life being restored, that is just what is required of the universe in order to make this shit even and fair again. So y'all, that's our reading. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. But yeah, I thought that it was to know that I couldn't post this on Saturday and it had to come on Sunday, and then to watch what unfolded in the environment that I'm in. I'm like, damn, like spirit really doesn't miss. I also had a thought that some people only want to flex when they see you fail. Like some people only know that they are doing well when they see you are failing. And when you are not failing, some people think that you're flexing, even if you're not. And so jealous and envy tells me that somebody wanted something that you had. And the way your mind operates, the way you're committed to the knowledge, the way you're committed to the light, just the way you navigate earth, and the way you can make a thought appear in your hands, you can make it to be something tangible. Y'all, that is some next level shit. And when people can't manifest, but they think that they can usurp the mind of a manifester, that is wild to me. You are watching me do something you cannot do. But in your mind, you believe that you can stop me from doing it. But you can't even do it though, right? Like you don't even have the codes. You don't even have the system settings in order to do this, but yet you can stop it. And so the diluted attachments were never going to belong to the healer. This is about somebody who believed wholeheartedly that they were something that they were not. And now they can't get in. Now they can't get through. You are Moses, right? You're Moses. Essentially, the great deliverer, the lawgiver. So you are a person of power, like you have an appointed position. And so the same way that Moses had some type of reason, like there was a reason for your knowledge, there is a reason for your commitment. All roads lead to somewhere. Your road was always going to go somewhere, and somebody tried to close a road that the Most High created and paved and designed just for you to walk down. Y'all, people are foolish. And like we say, they got to fuck around and find out how foolish they are. And so you may know who this Zacchaeus is. This is somebody who prides themselves on money, right? And unfortunately, they had to see how little it could do for them when they really come up against somebody that has a divine calling. And maybe this is somebody that was able to receive some type of payment for successfully doing this. But like this was always a job that was too big. This was always a job that they were never going to be successful at. But sometimes you think you're going to be successful because you've been offered a paycheck. You've been offered money to do it. And so if you only see money as success, then you never really understand that success can look like something different, right? Until you fail at getting the money. And then once you recognize why you failed, it's like, damn, so there's a whole nother world. There's a whole nother reality. There's a whole nother layer to this. But if this person was jealous and envious, they already recognize whether they were honest with themselves or not. If you're walking around being envious, desiring something somebody has, it is in that moment that you recognize you didn't have it. So what makes you think that you can stop or change something that you don't even possess? Y'all, it is giving me stupidity. I'm sorry. It's giving me stupidity, which is why I think it is so important that Zacchaeus has a short stature. This is somebody that has a short mind. And they attempted to use their short mind in order to shorten somebody that has a long mind. Your mind literally goes from earth to the spiritual realms. This is somebody's mind that they could barely get off the ground good. But they thought that they were going to close down your mind that goes from earth to Mercury. And they felt like they could usurp it. They could take your crown. All right, y'all. I love you. This is our Sunday message, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.